Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Ed the Pagan Show. And today I have Sean Wilde, an emerging individual who's emerging into our world of leadership and runs conventions and does a number of things. We're going to talk about it. But I want to welcome Sean. How you doing?
Hey, good, Ed. Thanks for having me on your show. Thank you.
Oh, of course. Well, as we know, we're going to be talking to people who are making a difference in the world today and working towards a community that we all enjoy. So first, how do you identify yourself? That's an important part of what I'm looking at.
Yeah, so I identify myself in a number of different ways, but as I was telling you earlier before you officially got started, I primarily identify myself as a theurgist. So I practice
Hmm.
theurgy with one of the initiatory orders that I'm part of, and then I joke that when I'm doing good things, I'm a theurgist.
Hmm.
When I'm kind of doing maybe naughty or baneful things, I say that I practice sorcery. So those are the two primary ways I kind of identify myself and identify my magic.
Okay. And that's an important aspect of it. How do you get, okay, for those who don't know, what is theurgy?
Yeah, so it's there are definitely different interpretations, but the
Hmm.
main one is becoming more like the divine and whatever
Hmm.
the divine is for you. So whether that's creator, God, goddess, a specifically named a deity, but becoming more like them. And so you're trying to bring their energy closer to you, as well as get your energy closer to them and somehow meet in the middle. So that's one of the two things. And the other thing is to become an individualized soul. So one of the main goals of Theurgy is to become an individualized soul so that when you reincarnate, you'll actually remember your past lives and start building on the knowledge that you've gained from past lives.
That's very interesting. I've seen very similar beliefs. I actually have a similar belief. I'm a big fan of the Dalai Lama. I've been in
Gotcha.
his presence. I actually listened to him talk. It's remarkable.
That's awesome.
Because of the fact that he can jump into these stories of past lives.
Yep.
And they're not past lives to him, they're stories he's telling of his life. And it's fascinating. So I did not know there was that was part of it. That's excellent. So how did you get started in all this? That's it sounds very refined. It sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah. So for me, my journey actually began when I was 4 years old. So I was in a house and it was haunted. And for those people who are old enough, if you remember the old roller blind, so it was basically a roll, and the blind would roll down. And if you looked at them wrong, they would roll up, right? If you touched them lightly, they would roll up. They're very finicky. And in my house, though, they would roll down. And so the house had actual like physical activity happening in it. And this ghost would basically talk to me almost every single evening. And it got to the point where my parents, who believed in things but weren't, doing things actively, actually held a seance and basically were trying to tell this ghost, listen, you got to leave because Sean's not getting any sleep anymore. So
Mhm.
after the ghost left, I learned how to read. Don't know if that was because of the ghost or just my age. Don't know, both. But I learned to read and I started reading about the paranormal and the occult at a 4-year-old level. So I was reading about, the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot and ghosts, of course, and UFOs. And I just found this world extremely fascinating. So that's how it started. And it just kind of built from there. By the time I was in grade 7 or 8, so I would have been about 11 or 12 years old, I was actually reading about Buddhist monks and I was reading about the Dalai Lama. So interestingly enough, some intersection there, Ed. Reading about Ouija boards, because that's one of the things I could get my hands on in terms of information. I grew up in a small town in Canada. So these are just the things I had access to and spirituality in general. And it just kept on growing from there. Then I did my first public speaking engagement. It was on UFOs. I was 12 in grade 8. And it just kept on growing. And in high school, started speaking on magic and the occult, did some papers on it. University, same thing. University founded some different groups. So in university, I founded a pagan and psychic fellowship at my university. And it was actually started by a fraternity that I was in. They signed off on it so that I had enough people signing it to start it. So fraternity started a pagan and psychic fellowship at my school in Canada. Founded Religion and Culture Society with a bunch of other students. So just very active in kind of generic spirituality is what I would call it, where I'm exploring and helping other people explore. And it just continued from there.
That makes some sense. I've talked about the idea of the common folk religion that we have, which is in America and in the Americas is like Bigfoots and all sorts of different ideas of it. And
Yeah.
that's separate of the organized religion. I'm just talking about the things we talk about. So you're right in that mainstream. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
How'd you end up in New Orleans of all places? Yeah, I want to talk about it.
So so at 20 I got my first initiation and it kept on growing from there. So I was part of different groups, got multiple initiations, still exploring. And at some point, a friend of mine actually came down here for a vampire convention and they loved it. They fell in love with the city. They said it was amazing. This is, in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, in the heyday of New Orleans goth and vampire subculture. And it was always on my list. I always wanted to go for the goth subculture and the vampire subculture. And there's just something special about the city that was calling me.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was really afraid of voodoo. I had a one negative experience when I was younger, and I was pretty afraid of it. And I don't like being afraid of things. So I really wanted to conquer that fear. And so there was a conference that I heard about, and one of my friends was speaking at it, and I decided to go. And I fell in love with the city. The city absolutely just called me. So the culture, the magic, the energy, the people, the music, just the food, the history, just everything called to me, and kept on visiting more and more and more. And then in August of 2021, came down and was like, I think I want to live here. And 2 months later, I had a home in New Orleans, and I've been living here, traveling back and forth, but essentially living here ever since October of 2021.
And you have businesses there now.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, so you didn't just move in, you actually became part of the integral part of the city.
Um, I don't know
But
about integral
and
part of it.
it,
I try, try to definitely try to. So since I
anytime
was
anyone has a business, anytime anyone opens a business, become part of that
Oh,
community.
fair. Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, like since I was 16 years old, I always wanted to own an occult shop or maybe a bookstore type thing that was
Hmm.
spiritually focused. And then when I saw New Orleans for the first time, my 16-year-old dream was owning an occult shop or paranormal shop in the French Quarter. And it was just kind of like living the dream. And so, yeah, the first shop opened in October of 2022. It's called Sassy Magic, as you
Hmm.
know. And so, Sassy Magic is a combination of American Horror Story Coven meets The Craft meets Hello Kitty. So it's pink and it's glittery with a disco ball, and it's fun and it's silly, but it's also really serious too. We have serious magic there too. We have both because we're a tourist city, so you have to balance it if you want to, if you want to pay the bills. So that was October of 2022, and then Sassy Magic Noir was October of 2023, and then Sassy Magic Boutique was August of 2024, and then started a conference called SassyCon, which was May of 2025. Yeah, so three shops and a conference now here in the city.
That's pretty amazing. That's expansive growth. And people have asked me before, because I've worked in tourist cities. I've been to New Orleans. I was in Salem for a while. And they
Mhm.
always, they always get, isn't there too much business there? Isn't it there's too much traffic? And I say, one, and you've obviously, quality always rises, and you have to go where your customers are. I mean, I've known so many people who have built wonderful shops in the middle of nowhere, because there isn't, because there isn't the customer base. They think there is. But in New
Yeah.
Orleans, you have a customer base. You have millions of people come through the city every year
Yeah,
to do so.
that's exactly it. We a lot of our business is from locals, which is amazing, and we have
Hmm.
repeat locals where we have certain people that will come in for certain things regularly. However, as other occult shop owners realize in other cities, relying completely on the locals will often not pay the bills or is a different type of revenue stream. And for us. Definitely the tourists and that constant like replenishing of things keeps us in business, which allows us to get things for the locals that they want. And that's, some of the more serious magic. We get serious magic for the tourists too, but we also sell silly things too for them. So it's a mixture of both.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, one of the things I've learned, and you probably have too, is that they want, from the magical people, they want their t-shirt from the city, they want their shot glass put on their shelves, and they want a reading or some experience they can go home that they do not have in their own backyard. And that's
Completely
where
agree.
we. So what do you offer to that? I mean, how do you answer that? People go, "What do you mean by that?" Um,
I mean, it depends on the person, right? I mean, we
mhm.
offer readings. Every shop here in the city does, so that's all pretty normal and standard. part of it's an experience too, and just chatting with them. So, we've had people come in that are, dying of cancer and they don't want a reading. They don't want to buy anything. They just want to talk because they're thinking
Mhm.
about spiritual things and they're thinking about an afterlife. I've met people that I've had past lives with where they came into the shop and we're like, holy crap. I remember you, so we have things like that. And then we have people that are just looking for magic. They're looking to know and experience something beyond what they consider normal. So we have that too. And then we have a lot of the standard stuff. A lot of people are very focused on money, which makes sense. A lot of people are very focused on sex, which makes sense. And so you have people looking for spells and items and oils and things like that are like that. And then exactly what you said, Ed. People are looking for, a t-shirt or a bag that says New Orleans in the name of the shop on it, or a shot glass. That's all very normal as well. So
Mhm.
we do that too, like any reasonable shop would in the French Quarter. What we try and do too to cater an experience is we'll if we engage people at all, like or if they're engaging us, we give them a map. So we have a map of the French Quarter, and we have all kinds of our other competitors on there, our friendly competitors, that are on there. To let people know where the other shops are, and because I'm into the goth industrial scene, where the goth bars are and things like that. So I think that helps create an experience for people too, because now they've got a map where they can go and see different places and experience not just our shops, but about 30 or 35 different businesses in the quarter. So,
And that's something people don't understand about ecosystems. And I've been talking a lot about ecosystems in our community and why are people attracted to places like New Orleans, Salem, uh, uh, what is it? The other one, Lilydale. There's another one. I mean, there are different types of it in that they have different practices. But at the end of the day, having the ability through tourism primarily and quality living, they're able to find this sort of life that they build into this wonderful community. And now you've got SassyCon. Let's talk about SassyCon for a minute.
sure.
What is it? I mean, so it's a brand new, is it a hotel conference?
Yeah, it's a hotel conference. This year we're at the Royal Sinestra. Last year we were at Bourbon Orleans.
Hmm.
Beautiful hotel, but it was pretty expensive, and we didn't we preferred the treatment that the Royal Sinestra was willing to give us. So we moved hotels, and it's a carry on of the Sassy Magic brand. So it's fun loving and kind of silly, but also really really serious. We've got some pretty big names coming this year. So names that people might be familiar with. We have Christopher Penczak. We have Matthew Venus. We have oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Ivo Dominguez Jr. We have Jamie Wagoner.
Hmm.
We have Christine, and I'm going to butcher her last name, but originally Cunningham, so Scott Cunningham's sister. She's coming down to talk about Scott and what it was like being his sister. So we've got some
That'd be
pretty
worth the admission right there. I mean,
right,
serious.
exactly.
I mean,
Yeah,
that is, I'm serious about it.
yeah.
It's interesting because some names I recognize, some names I don't in these new spaces. That's how I get started. Um, and so it's just another convention that, talks about magic and talks about all these different practices. Is it more magical or is it more spiritual or is it uh,
It's
re-
definitely no, it's definitely magic heavy. So it ranges from basic classes like a lot of conferences to more advanced classes. The things that I think that are different with ours, well, first of all, it's in New Orleans, which is a destination city. So that's a
right?
huge difference versus, wherever in whatever state. The other one is the concentration of big names for such it's a smaller conference, our
Oh,
first year there
sure.
was about 50 of us, which for a first year is amazing. So we'll see how many we get for 2026. We do it Mother's Day weekend every year, so May of 2026, Mother's Day weekend. So that I think that sets it apart too, and that it's still smaller, and so it's pretty intimate in the sense that if you're a fan of one of these people, you have the opportunity to actually chat with them. There's
Hmm.
more opportunity, and they're not having burnout because of the hundreds of people that are trying to approach them or the dozens of people. And so there's kind of a unique opportunity there to actually have really cool conversations with people where you might otherwise not be able to. So that's a little bit different too. And then we also do have like a more pure energy track because of my background, a vampirism track because of that as well. And so that's not unique. There are other conferences that do that too, but it's definitely one of the things that I think going forward will be part of our branding is that we do stuff like that at SassyCon. So yeah, there's overlap obviously with other conferences. You can't avoid it in terms of what you're doing, but a lot of it's really unique. And then the other thing too is people like Christopher Penczak. He's like, here's all my go-to classes, Sean. And I said, well, I want you to do something new. And so he's doing a class he's never taught before, ever in decades. And he's going to be doing a brand new class for the first time at SassyCon. So we encourage people that have been speaking for a long time to do things brand new. So if they're teaching three classes, do one that you've never done before.
Hmm. It's very interesting because Christopher Penczak for lectures is one of the most amazing lecturers for me because he is so well spoken, but he's also theatrical. Every piece of it is organized in a way that I don't see a lot of other leaders. I'm on the other spectrum. I'm inspirational, aspirational talker, stream of thought. No idea on which subject, but Christopher Penczak is like watching a well-scripted play full of value, full of documentation, and more importantly, interesting, and it draws you in.
That's awesome.
Uh, I mean, yeah, if I had a choice between hearing one of my lectures or a Penzic lecture, everybody should, I tell them all the time, I've been against them. We go, no, everybody, almost everybody in one of my places where I was with them, we all walked out of my class and we went in to listen to his. But it's true. Um,
That's funny.
uh, so New Orleans is oftentimes, I've got two opinions about New Orleans, and then I want to talk about that book cover you have behind you.
Absolutely.
So I think in one way, New Orleans attracts a lot of attention, and it should be attracting a lot of attention for magic, for its lifestyle and everything else. And at the same time, I feel like New Orleans is anywhere on the map for most of the things that are happening. People really don't know um, out there. So it's very interesting to me how it stands at. I mean, what do you think about how New Orleans stands, the information, the community, and all of that against, I guess, what would be the national community, like that you draw these speakers from?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And
Hmm.
it's an interesting conundrum, and there's a lot that goes into that. So, first, New Orleans has, that I'm aware of, more than 40 traditions that are actively initiating in the city. That's what I'm aware,
Hmm.
which means that there's more. Um,
Right.
I don't know how much more, but I'm aware of about 40. I'm aware of 100 different traditions-ish that are represented in this city. Again, which means that there's more. And so you have a lot of different traditions, a lot of different initiatory practices. And
Hmm.
the thing is that if you look and try and do some searches, what you're going to find is some stuff about Haitian voodoo, some stuff about New Orleans voodoo, some stuff about Alexandrian witchcraft, OTO, Rosicrucian,
Hmm.
and that's about all you're going to find for the most part in terms of like what's quote public for initiatory practices down here, or at least easily find. And so that's 5 out of the 40, right?
Hmm.
That's 5 out of 40. There's 35 more ish. Again, I don't remember the exact number, but it's around 40.
Sure.
So that's one thing is that a lot of people here are actually, on the one hand, very open about it. So I have a massage therapist who's an initiated member of the Golden Dawn. Another one that I see is, a Reiki practitioner. Another one does other stuff. Um, I used to go to a Chinese food restaurant, never talk about magic. And then one day she just starts talking to me about reincarnation. So a lot of the people down here are very magical, but they don't necessarily advertise it online. It's only through in-person conversations that you discover it. So that's one thing. Then the other thing is the city, we are in a Republican state. The city is Democrat in terms of, which is pretty normal, right? In the States, and it's pretty
Hmm.
normal for Canada too. We call them different names, but pretty normal. And so you have that kind of push-pull between different philosophies, which sometimes also spills over into the occult world. And then you also have, we are very Catholic in Southern Louisiana, especially New Orleans. And so voodoo is typically more accepted and related practices than witchcraft. By the Catholic Church here in New Orleans. And so you have that kind of push-pull too, in terms of people talking about things and being really open about it. So, one of the challenges as a tourist city, as I was saying to somebody, I said, it'd be really cool if we could get New Orleans more known as a magical city. And the person I was talking to said, you're not going to be able to do that because of the Catholic pushback that you're going to get. They won't do that, even though it might be good for tourism and good for money for the city. So you have all that kind of going on. So I think that's part of it. A lot of people that come to New Orleans that are transplants come to reinvent themselves. They come to get away from something, whether it's in my case the cold in Canada. In other cases, they're literally fleeing stuff, right? Bad relationships, whatever. And so they're just under the radar. They kind of want to just do their own thing, and so that's why. It's starting to change now, just recently, I would say over the last maybe 5 years. But that's why a lot of the big New Orleans names, a lot of people don't know them, even though locally they might be very well known.
Hmm.
Our most public people right now in New Orleans, I would say, that are, well, not the most public people. The three people that I think are most public that I would talk about would be myself, Sen Elias, and Lilith Dorsey. Those are the three people that, people are starting to recognize those names. But there's a lot of brilliant practitioners down here, Ed, that have been doing stuff.
Oh,
Some
sure.
born and raised here that have been doing stuff that are phenomenal. So, yeah, but they're just more quiet about it.
Yeah, and New Orleans has always been a city of the new beginnings for hundreds of years. I mean, always.
Hmm.
Yeah, from the days of from slaves escaping from the French coming from overseas. I mean, New Orleans has always been a city that has all these wonderful cultures, but has also been a place for refugees, for displaced people.
Yep.
Always has been. I mean, that's what makes it one of the most unique cities in America uh,
Yep.
for itself, and not just for the magic, not just for the food, which is wonderful. I love the food. Oh yeah, um, but also from a historical point of view, there's a lot of things that do happen there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's always worth a visit, even if you're not into witchcraft, or if you want to be into the magic of it, and your family doesn't. There's plenty for them to do else otherwise.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
so it's one of the few places you can actually go to look at magic and all of that, and take out an entire family who is not interested in it, and they can all have a great time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I've known people that do that where they'll come down for a conference and their spouse or partner, or in some cases children, will go to other things and they love it. So,
For me, my daughter, when she was 4 years old, there's a story we have about with the Voodoo Museum and an incident that happened to her. And she's now 40, 38. She's gonna get yelled for accelerating her age. But there's been always sort of energy around it. But let's go ahead and talk about that cover, Living Vampires, right behind
yes.
you.
Yeah, so Living Vampires is being published through Llewellyn. It's my second
Mhm.
book. Pitches for book 3 and 4 are in, and thoughts on 5 and 6 are in my head. So we'll see. But Living Vampires, I'm talking about vampirism. I'm talking about how
Mhm.
I define vampirism and what it looks like to me. I talk about vampiric people versus actual vampires. I talk about the practice of vampirism that certain magical groups do and what all those differences are. For people that aren't interested in vampirism but are interested in energy work, I talk about how you can use that energy though, and how you can go about it without being a vampire. I talk about how you can defend against it so that you don't have your energy siphoned. So we talk about that too, of course, because people do get drained by other people, whether they're by vampires or not. Talk about spiritual immortality. I talk about rebirth of the soul, and then I have 3 chapters dedicated to something called the Keprian Order. The Keprian Order is a vampire order that some people are familiar with, or at least have a passing familiarity with, and I talk about it a lot more in this book. So I expose a lot that I'm allowed to expose. I go right to the line, and then I made sure I wasn't crossing the line by having multiple other Keprians look at it, make sure we were good, but go right to the line and expose as much as I can to introduce the world to that order. So
That's how it goes. I mean, um, we've seen this over and over again, how we come to the order. And this information becomes slowly but surely more public. And what's your
yeah.
first book? I missed your first book. What's your first book?
So my first book was Magic Without Tools, and as it
Okay.
sounds, it was the whole idea of like doing magic without tools. And so one of the things that I found over the years, and I think it's pretty universal, is you have a practitioner come in, and sometimes they're doing things instinctually, sometimes they're not. They get introduced to
Hmm.
tools, they start working with tools, they kind of think they have to have tools, and then they kind of do what I call graduate. They graduate and they realize, hey, I don't need any tools at all for the most part. They kind of do pure energy work. or they use tools because they like it, or the particular tradition they're in kind of requires it. It's part of like what you're supposed to do. And the idea of my book was to try and turn that on its head and say, why don't we start off without tools, build a foundation, become stronger practitioners, and then choose the tools we want because we just want to, or maybe we want to amplify something just a little bit more. So that was one of my intentions of my book. And the other one was just to have more informed um, uh, um, practitioners too. So looking at things like shielding and grounding and ideas of karma and dharma and saying,
Hmm.
hey, is what we're kind of saying in our community accurate? And if it's not accurate, why are we talking about it like this? And have we thought about looking at it in a different way? And so I do that with Magical Oat Tools. Yeah, I'll kind of leave it at that. It's basically a pure energy workbook. It's meant to
Great.
piggyback on any system or faith. So, whether you're pagan or Wiccan or a theurgist or, whatever you are, Magical Tools can be used to complement that tradition.
I remember the book actually. I've actually read it. I didn't realize I didn't put two and two together. Actually, people don't realize I read a lot of these books. I mean, I'm a prolific reader.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good.
But it's getting harder and harder to keep up. When I
Yes,
started, I was able to read it, because I read a pretty high level, a phenomenal speed level. And it's getting harder and harder to keep up. Um,
I agree.
but this is an interesting one. This is a subject that I've seen a little bit of interest in the 90s to 2000s, then it kind of faded away. They were especially important because you're down in New Orleans when we saw Lestat, we saw Anne Rice's books really hit the marketplaces and get made into movies and series. But when her books really hit, before the movies, before the series, there was this out and out just craze about vampires.
Yep.
Michelle Bellinger was one of the individuals that I learned a lot from.
Yep.
So, do you identify yourself as that, or you're doing this as the writer observer?
No, that's a great question. So yeah, I identify as that. I've kept it pretty quiet. Like people that know me know, and they've
Hmm.
known for decades, but I kept it pretty quiet for a long time. You know,
Hmm.
people that are good enough with energy work, if they're around me, they start to pick up on something. They start to realize, wait a second, what's going
Hmm.
on with this guy? And then if they're familiar with vampirism, then they know pretty quickly. So it's always fascinating to me to see who figures it out and who doesn't. I mean, pretty soon it's not going to matter because it's going to be pretty public. Especially with this book. But no, I identify as such. I am a member of the Keprian Order, and so that's the lens primarily that I'm looking at the vampire world through is
Hmm.
through the lens of the Keprian Order. But I try and in other areas present a lens to people that is more universal as well. But I'm
Hmm.
mostly, 90% looking at it through my lens and what I believe vampirism to be. So,
And that's the only way we can write is from our own experiences, only
yeah,
from our own research. And that's why we must work out there and preserve our libraries out there.
yes.
Um, I know of in the past, in the 70s, there was a big fire of one of the bigger occult stores at the time, and it destroyed so many actually unique books.
Oh,
Yeah, but that happens. I mean, so we always have to be very vigilant about repeating our stories and talking about it.
I agree.
Uh, um, Another time I'll talk to you about reincarnation because that seems to be a whole nother subject. And
Oh,
I would
yeah, we
love
could do a whole thing on that for
that
sure.
that and I do because I'm a big believer in reincarnation. I've had my experiences, you've had yours, and this idea coming, and you mentioned it before about waking up in our next lives with more of our memories intact. That's going to be interesting because I think that's a way our sciences are growing. But can people find you? I mean, it's sassy, almost sounds like almost sassy everything. And uh
Yeah. So to find me specifically, I'm on Instagram. I'm Sean Wilde author. So Sean
mhm,
Sean Wilde Wilde author. On Facebook, I'm Sean Wilde. I also have an author page, but I recently changed my main page to be actually like a writer creator. So
mhm,
I think people can just find me on what used to be my personal Facebook, which is now part personal, part business. Those are the two
mhm,
easiest ways to find me. I'm not really active on any other social media for the most part. I do have accounts with other things like Blue Sky, but I'm just honestly truly
mhm.
not that active. Um, If people forget those, they can always reach out to Sassy Magic to try and find me and track me down. I have a website. It's seanwilde.ca because I am Canadian. I'm Indigenous Canadian, so I took a .ca. Also, .com was taken, if I recall correctly. So you can find me that way too. In terms of in person, yeah, it's typically going to be in New Orleans. I always encourage people, tell me well in advance because I'll have people be like, "Hey, I'm down for 2 days. Can I see you?" And there's a lot of stuff often going on. So I don't always get to see
Oh,
people,
sure.
So
Running.
I always encourage them to let me know ahead of time, even if it's friends that I already know that are on Facebook, it's good to know ahead of time. In terms of conferences, this year I'm at Convocation, which is near Detroit. That's in February, February 18th-ish. I forget the exact date. Then I'm
At the
at,
time,
oh, sorry,
at
go
the
ahead.
time of at the time of this interview, 3 days we've been doing a lot of it 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks from the time you first see this interview.
There we go. Yeah, exactly. This is coming up. Then SassyCon Mother's Day weekend in May. I'll be going to Mystic South in July. I'm hoping I get in again. So I should be teaching a class there. So those are ones that are guaranteed. I've got a couple of potentials, but they haven't told me yet, so I don't know. I don't want to name them yet and misspeak. But that's how people can find me too. So Mystic South is in Atlanta, another really cool city to visit. SassyCon, of course, is here in New Orleans, and then Convocation is in Detroit, and all three are hotel conferences.
The wave of the next generation. All is the it is definitely the wave of the hotels.
It's
Uh,
definitely becoming more and more popular. I mean,
of course.
as I get older, I like a nice bed, versus camping.
So me, Neil, other merchants have talked about what's happening with the with outdoor festivals a little bit, which are still very cool. But we are seeing this rise in the hotel, and you're in another part of it, fairly new, SassyCon.
Yep.
So there's a good chance, especially in these early days, folks. You'll hear about all the elders talking about, oh, when I was first young, we had these small groups. This is a chance for you to have that small group experience.
It's true.
So thank you for being on, and I'm hoping to check out more with you throughout the year. As you know, I'm committed 365 days of straight programming. Today is day 30, so and I
Oh
got
my
a chance
goodness.
to. Oh yeah, absolutely. We're committed to a 1 year worth of programming to explore the community and find more about it, and it gets you more attached. And Sean is one of the individuals that are really making a difference in its local community, and I think you're going to hear more of them on the national level. So thank you for being here. You get the last
Thanks,
word,
Ed.
the thing.
Oh, I was just going to thank you. First of all, thank you for doing this and committing to so much programming. It's a great way for people to be platformed as a great way to get words out of different ideas, right? So we're all of the speakers you're going to have. There might be some overlap. We're going to have a lot of different ideas, which is really great for your listeners and watchers to take in. So thank you, Ed. I appreciate the time. And yes, check me out at SassyCon or at Sassy Magic. Reach out to me on Instagram or on Facebook. And it was a pleasure.
And folks, and thank you for being here. And folks, keep watching. You never know what we're going to talk about next. I've got some interesting guests come up, and on Monday I'll have Don with us. He continues to talk about the longest continuous chat room in the pagan world. So, peace,
Nice.
folks.